The Crow is about a man who comes back to life for revenge after his girlfriend and him are murdered. They call him the Crow because of a bird that follows him around, but that bird is not a crow. It starts off with a city burning and some kid talking about people dying and coming back for revenge if they died horribly. Kind of like this crime scene that this cop just contaminated. I guess this woman's still alive and this kid Sarah is like her godchild or something. 1 year later, Sarah is visiting the graves of Shelley and Eric Webster, so I guess she did die. When this raven, I think it's supposed to be a crow, but that's a raven. This raven lands on Eric's grave. Later that night, these guys are busting up an arcade and blow it up, while Eric breaks out of his grave and is guided home by this raven. Seriously, these are ravens, not crows. Ravens are noticed to be larger than crows with thicker beaks, shaggy throat furs, and tail feathers that form a diamond shape. Where crows are smaller than ravens with straighter, smaller bills, smoother throat feathers, and tail feathers that form a fan shape. Were they just unable to find crows? What the hell? Whatever, Eric is guided home that is still a crime scene after a year for some reason and remembers what happened. Basically, these people broke in and beat and molested Shelley. Then Eric walked in and this guy named Tintin throws a knife at him. At least, that's what the original plan was, before a change was made that ultimately cost Brandon Lee, the actor who plays Eric, his life. At the last minute, the director decided to change the scene to have Eric get shot instead.
When he came through the door with the grocery bag, they do the shot, and then he drops down, and he didn't get up. He just stayed there. And somebody says, I think he's really hurt. He's been shot. We went to the hospital, and we waited around for hours, and then they came out and told us that he'd passed on.
What happened was Michael Massey, who plays Funboy, fired a gun that had a dummy round in it. The problem was that there was a piece of another dummy round lodged in the barrel from being shot a couple weeks before. It got lodged because the primer cap wasn't removed from the dummy round prior to shooting the bullet, so when the trigger was pulled, it lodged the round into the barrel, and no one bothered to check if the barrel was cleared. So when Michael Massey fired the gun later, it shot the lodged round into Brandon Lee's chest and killed him. It was a very unfortunate accident, and Michael Massey carried the guilt from it for the rest of his life, even though it wasn't his fault. But anyway, back to the movie. Eric walks in the door, and this guy named Tintin throws a knife at him. Then they shoot him several times and throw him out the window, and now he has healing powers. Are these morons swallowing bullets? What the f***? Anyway, not Brandon, because the scene was shot after his death, puts on makeup to look like a sad face. And I guess he can see through the eyes of his raven and sees Tintin, and decides to fight him. He's punching sounds. Then Eric just murders him. Then we meet the boss of the bullet swallowers, Top Dollar, and his girlfriend. Well, turns out Sarah's mom is a prostitute or something. Wow, what a wonderful parent. Anyway, Eric goes to a pawn shop looking for his fiance's engagement ring that was sold to there a year ago, which the shop somehow still has, although I don't know why he wouldn't have sold it by now because it's a pawn shop. Then Eric blows it up and acts like a psycho to a cop.
When I say don't move, Snow White, you move, you're dead.
And I say I'm dead, and I move.
Then just disappears, which gets reported to Top Dollar and his pile of cocaine, which I kind of wonder if it was real considering reports say there was a lot of cocaine use on that set. Well, I guess it's Funboy's time to die after shooting Eric a few times, which is kind of weird considering that's most likely the prop gun that got lodged and killed Brandon Lee. At least he was nice and got the drugs out of Sarah's mom, somehow. Then he goes and talks to the cop and finds out what happened to him and Shelley. Meanwhile, Top Dollar and his girlfriend...
My sister.
Sister? She's supposed to be your sister?
My father's daughter.
Oh, I guess that's not his... Whatever, talk to some shopkeep to find out what happened. Then Top Dollar murders him.
For fuck's sake, die, will ya?
What a psycho. Later on, Eric's back to his murder spree and gets kind of lucky with this guy getting hit by a car, which he steals, and gets hit by the cop who was chasing them. Did Eric plan all that? Although I don't know how he would, or did he just get lucky? Either way, Eric ties this dude to the car and blows it up. For some reason, Sarah decides it's a good idea to go to Eric's apartment, where she finds him but never sees his face because that's not Brandon Lee. This scene was filmed after his death, so they used a body double. Oh yeah, let's just run towards a broken window. That's a great idea. Back at their hideout, all the remaining bad guys are having some meeting about setting fires and crap when Eric comes in to go on his final rampage. So there's a bunch of them shooting him and him shooting them, but they tone down the gore to avoid an NC-17 rating, since it was submitted 5 times before it finally got an R and caused Paramount to sell the rights to the film because apparently they don't release NC-17s. Or studios could stop being wusses and just let movies get the rating that they get. At least Eric got his revenge, except Top Dollar decided it was a good idea to kidnap Sarah. What, is he gonna piss off some dude who can't die? What is his plan here? Anyway, Eric finds him and they shoot his Raven, which is what I guess was healing him because he's not healing anymore. Except that it's still alive.
Take that.
Wait, what the f***? I thought that was his sister. Was that a lie, or are these two just gross? Anyway, Top Dollar's not sister is a moron and still has Eric's Raven, and it pecks out her eyes and she dies. So Eric goes onto the roof with Top Dollar, that's such a stupid name, and Sarah. They're fighting, but Eric sucks at fighting now, so he's about to die, but then he transfers Shelly's pain to Top Dollar, I think that's what's going on here, and he falls off the roof and dies. Yay, Sarah's saved, I don't care. Eric makes it back to the cemetery, then has some vision of his wife, and I guess dies again. I rather enjoyed this movie. It does get kinda cheesy with the choreography fighting and the way some characters behave. But that was the style in the 90s, and it adds a type of charm to it. I like the concept of a crow being used to resurrect someone from the dead, even though they use ravens for filming. The acting is pretty good. Brandon Lee is great as Eric Draven. He can do the whole acting sad and solemn, and his manic laughter is really well done. Michael Wincott is really good as Top Dollar. He's quite good at being menacing and using his body language to be intimidating. Rochelle Davis isn't too bad as Sarah Moore. Her lines sound kind of flat, but it works for her character because it seems like she's supposed to sound that way. The visual effects are pretty good for when it came out. The times when the crow is CGI looks fairly realistic, and I'm pretty sure they used blood packs for the shooting effects. And they did a great job superimposing Brandon Lee's face onto a body double for scenes they shot after he passed away. The only thing that looks really fake is when the characters are falling. This movie faced a lot of difficulties during production, and through them all, they just kept using ravens instead of crows. If you want to see an uncensored version of this video, or any of my other videos, check out my Patreon. If not, I appreciate you watching my video here too. Don't forget to do the YouTube stuff, and thanks for watching.